Hello everybody, my name's Star Raptor and I'm very excited to bring you my novel review of Star Wars Bloodline. First off, I want to give a big thank you to the guys over at Penguin Random House for sending me a review copy of Bloodline. So Bloodline is written by Claudia Gray, who you might have known did the writing for Star Wars Lost Stars, which is a critically acclaimed novel. If you haven't read it, please go ahead and check that out. It definitely flew under the radar. And so Bloodline is actually a story all about Senator Leia Organa. It takes place approximately 6 years before The Force Awakens, so we're in that transitioning between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens, and there's a lot of connective tissue in there. We see that the Empire has since fallen about 25 years prior, so we have the New Republic, going pretty strong at this point. They have a Senate, but the problem is the Senate's kind of broken off into two factions. You have the Populists, which Leia is a part of, who are more of the pro-world approach when it comes to government, whereas the Centrists, who are at odds with the Populists, they're more for like a galaxy-spanning kind of government. So you got these two kind of ideals that these people are fighting over, and unfortunately that's creating gridlock in the Senate. Not much is getting passed, not many bills are getting passed, but the good thing is, For once, the galaxy is at peace. There's really nothing going on. Like, there's been a disarmament act with the New Republic, so there's not much of a military. All is going pretty well in the world until there's something that happens that sparks an investigation that Leia leads a little team to go find out about. And it turns out it goes deeper and deeper. But, of course, the Senate doesn't want to support any further investigations. But Leia thinks that it could have further replications that could really cause something crazy and big to happen in New Republic. So she takes matters in her own hands and continually investigates this. But what's really important about the story, hence the name Bloodline, is Leia has a bit of a black mark on her card when it comes to her heritage, namely Darth Vader. So we see a major factor of how much being tied to somebody can affect your career and your progress in life, and this story does a great job of kind of unfolding those events for Leia Organa. It's basically a journey from her being a senator until what happens to spark her to move to create the resistance and become general. It's kind of what the story is about in a nutshell. But things I really liked about this novel were, first off, this is a deep dive into Star Wars politics. Yes, we had a lot of people that were a little underwhelmed with The Force Awakens, namely because they didn't have enough description of what was happening. Who was the First Order? Where'd they come from? What's the New Republic? Who's the Resistance? This novel does an awesome job of giving us that backstory for everything you need to know. And it's really interesting because the politics, they kind of mirror the United States politics in a way. You got the Republicans and Democrats. It gave me that kind of vibe the whole way through, and it's kind of, it's just kind of, this story in general is more grounded in reality, and I'll get to that later. But it's generally just more realistic. There's not too much fighting going on. A lot of dialogue, a lot of, there's corruption and everything else. So it kind of speaks to our society in today, which I find extremely fascinating. And going into the characterization of Leia, Claudia Gray, this writer is amazing when it comes to her characters and just making them seem so fitting for who they are. And Leia, she is perfect in this. I can't really tell you how much more about this because I don't want to give too much away. But she's got that brash personality that we all know. She's very, very, very intelligent with her diplomatic skills, but can just pull out a blaster and just be super accurate. So she's just really great in this. And going on with Leia, retelling of events that happened during the movies. There's a lot of really freaking interesting things that she goes over in her head about different flashbacks throughout things we've seen her in the trilogy. So she's giving commentary on things that have happened with her in the movies that I would have never even thought of. And now watching these movies over again, it's going to give me a different experience. Now, that to me is super powerful when something like this comes along, this novel, and it sparks like a different take, a different perspective on something you've seen a million times. So I can't wait to go back and watch the movies now, having read this read this novel. I can't wait to go watch the movies. This does an important job in, it tells us, doesn't go into too much detail, but it tells us some characters and where they are in the short years before The Force Awakens. I'm not going to give away names, but I think you guys could probably guess who I'm referring to. But yes, we do know a little about those interesting characters and where they are before Force Awakens. Side characters in this are just great. First off, I want to give my hat off to Claudia Gray with C-3PO in this novel. C-3PO, you know, it finally give him a novel that he actually, you know, he seems important in this. He is important. He's always around Leia, and he gets out in the field a little bit. I'll say that. He gets out in the field, and he is definitely a member of the team, and he has a purpose. So I'm very happy to see good old 3PO out there. Annoying as ever, of course. She definitely gets a good C-3PO in there. And just like the opponent of Leia Organa, the centrist opponent, very, very great character development with the character, for sure. Also, there's a lot of emotional moments in this novel, namely because, you know, this story, it does involve Han Solo a little bit. So we all know the end game of Han Solo, right? It's not a big spoiler to anybody what happens in episode 7 at this point. So, you know, there's some moments between Han and Leia, and they're just basically perfect, and you just can't help but, you know, feel a little something when they're in those moments, and you just think ahead about how everything will just turn to crap pretty soon, and you just think about that, and it's just, it gets you. And, you know, one final thing I really liked about the novel is just how the story progresses at an excellent pace that starts off, you know, in unfamiliar ground, and it continually builds up the plot. I know kind of where the story's going, but it's interesting to see how they get there, because there is a lot of twists and turns throughout the novel, and it's just really cool to see how this gets to the point where we are at The Force Awakens. And yeah, even though there's a 6-year gap, okay, so you can still see where things might sway in one direction. A lot of cool references, though, guys. A lot of great references. If you're deep into Star Wars, you'll get these. Even there's references to things that have kind of happened in pop culture that kind of turned basically the outlook of a certain character in a certain point of view, basically. And you'll know what I'm talking about when you read it. And as far as things to improve, guys, this was one of my favorite novels of Star Wars yet. I only have one thing I could improve upon with this novel, and, you know, given the subject matter, I don't expect much action from a novel like this. In fact, it was pretty refreshing to read a Star Wars novel that wasn't wall-to-wall action. There was a lot of political intrigue and backstabbing, but, you know, the middle portion of the novel did kind of get a little bit slower for me. I could have used maybe some kind of little action sequence to pick things up a little bit. That being said, you know, this is, above all else, a political thriller, so, you know, what can you expect? So, but yes, this novel, I love this novel so much. Like, I recommend this novel to anybody that would like to know more about The Force Awakens. I recommend this novel to anybody that's a Star Wars fan. How about that? This novel is that good. This ranks up in the new canon for me. It's probably in the top 3. I mean, we have Lords of the Sith, we have Lost Stars, also by Claudia Gray, and we have Bloodline. So there we go. Two of the best Star Wars books are written by Claudia Gray. I would love to see her do some kind of, maybe even a book about Ben turning into Kylo Ren, or a sequel to Lost Stars, because it just, there's so many things that I mean, she's just an excellent writer, and I give my hat off to her for just continuing the saga and just capturing these characters. She knows Star Wars. So guys, you gotta pick this one up. So what did you guys think of my review of Star Wars Bloodline? Have you guys been reading any of the new canon? Let's continue the discussion in the comment section below, and make sure you hit that thumbs up symbol if you liked the video. Please subscribe to my channel if you're interested at all in any of my videos. I constantly upload every week, including a weekly Star Wars show titled This Week in Star Wars Canon. You guys can follow me on Twitter at StarRaptor, as well as like my Facebook page at StarRaptor. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye.